All right.
How you doing, everybody? Thank you for attending. I'm David Jean-Jacques. I'm from Dorchester. I represent the Big Hope Project. The Big Hope Project is a 501c3 nonprofit based in Dorchester. We're aimed to reduce recidivism and create equity in a disproportionate area. Boston and Dorchester, to be exact, is one of the most marginalized areas in Massachusetts, and we have a saying at Big Hope that the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. So we try to empower all our people by getting them to the social equity program, doing free expungement and CORI restorative services, and then we also do free educational events like this. Happy to be a part of the Flower Expo, and we also have a fellowship where we try to teach people how to get into the industry, have empowerment, livable wage jobs, and really make a difference in the community. So this panel is about the Guiding Light Initiative, which is our reentry program based in Boston. We just got funded to do reentry services where we're gonna give direct aid, teach people how to get into the industry through the social equity program, and just really uplift and empower the community. So we're really happy to be a part of the Flower Expo. We have this panel. I'll let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into it. Thank you for having us. So you can start, Blake.
How you doing, everyone? I'm Blake Mensing. I'm a cannabis attorney and license holder myself. I had a background in municipal law and environmental law, which sort of lined up really well to help my clients the way I do now. I have offered a 20% discount to social equity and economic empowerment folks since my firm started. Frankly, I wish I could do more, but I got to keep the lights on at my house. So yeah, I've been helping Big Hope over the years. Think they do wonderful work in the community. I've helped out with a couple expungement clinics, and actually helped them coin the phrase fellowship navigator, which I'm pretty proud of. I think it's funny. So yeah, I think for people to get rich in this industry without bringing people who've been sort of trampled on over the decades, I think is morally reprehensible. The commission likes to spend a lot of time patting themselves on the back for their equity programming, and you look at the representation numbers in terms of ownership, and it's terrible. And we can get into sort of why I think that is as the panel develops, but I'm excited to be here. Yeah, for me, no question is off limits. The worst I can say is I don't know, or I won't answer it. But yeah, I'm excited for this, so that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, everybody. I am absolutely amazed. I'm shocked to be here. The Flower Expo, thank you, Big Hope Project, for bringing me. Thank you, everybody, for participating and supporting this, because these guys are doing amazing work in the city of Boston and all around the state of Massachusetts. And salute to y'all. I'm the director of Voices Liberation, a 501c3 nonprofit out of Boston, where we define ourselves for ourselves and prescribe the solutions, you know what I'm saying? And I'm also the owner of Scope HQ, a retail social enterprise store for the community in Boston, and also the owner of a tobacco product called Rapper Rolls. And well, upcoming, and thank you for having me here.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Vanta, but most people know me as Dutch or Dutch ReBelle. I'm a recording artist primarily, so through that I've done a lot of community work, performances in the area, all the things that come with that. But also I've recently launched into the cannabis space as well. I do work with a newly launching transport company. I'm doing B2B transport out of Seekonk. So my connection with these guys are, outside of being, doing shows and, some monumental memory performances. Outside of that, being an artist and being in the space where most of my peers are disproportionated and just not able to kind of get to the next step in some of their returns from certain vacations or whatever we want to call it. But basically making sure that there's some type of plan in motion for them. And it's wild because as an artist, the cannabis industry relies a lot on artists and that lifestyle to make a lot of their revenue. So how I got into cannabis, as well as supporting what these guys are doing outside from, our Caribbean roots and understanding that challenge. It is important for me for women in cannabis, as well as artists that are connected to the cannabis space, to be able to, monetize their passions and actually learn some skills that they might not think are real solidified business skills, but through cultivation, that's agriculture, you know what I mean, and nonprofit work. I feel like cannabis and nonprofit go hand in hand. So just being able to give them options and resources is why I'm kind of a double agent in the space. So I'm very supportive of what these guys do, as being someone who's been booked for them, as well as someone who's gotten resources as far as even being on this panel in the cannabis space. So thank you guys for being here as well.
Hello, I'm Harry Jean-Jacques, co-founder and president of Big Hope Project. We've been doing the work collectively over 10 years now. We have great wins like creating the first exclusivity period primarily for people disproportionately impacted on the war on drugs in Cambridge. We're very proud of that. We were the only ones to do that. We beat the MSOs at the time multiple times. That's probably why we have a bad reputation now. We also did the same thing in Boston, which created the BCP, which is, one of the only programs that cater specifically to black people, because as everyone alluded to, we're the ones most likely incarcerated for the same product. Even now, after legalization, black people are arrested 3.3 times the rate of their white counterparts. If you look at the ownership rate, it hovers at 3% nationally, which is horrendous in my opinion. So Blake alluded to it earlier. I think the CCC and everyone else has a lot of work to do, and we're here to literally talk about it. Thank you.
Amazing. I'll give a round of applause for that. So we're going to start off with an easy fire-off question. What is your favorite strain, and if you have a reason why, you can add that as well.
I'm honestly terrible at remembering strain names. People say, do you like X? And I say, yes, if it's weed. The strain that sticks in my mind is White Widow. And the reason that sticks in my mind is, A, I like sativas. B, I was 16 and in Amsterdam when I had it for the first time at a coffee shop. So just all that combined made it an incredible experience. Went to dinner with my parents. For some reason, they said, yeah, go walk around Amsterdam as a 16-year-old on your own. I said, okay. After they had caught me smoking weed, 2 years before. So in any event, I get to dinner and visibly high, and they're like, what's going on with you? I was like, oh, I'm just sleepy. So in any event, that's my favorite strain.
That's some good stuff. Now, I come from the streets. I ain't gonna lie. The city of Boston, Roxbury. And one thing we had hit our town back in early 2006 was the New York Sour Diesel. Now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the New York Sour Diesel. Right, I don't know what was in the strain, I don't know. But sativa specifically is always something that, keeps me going mentally. I like, keep my flow. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of the New York Sour Diesel. Bring it back. Somebody figure that formula out.
That's funny because that's my one enemy. I'm like, listen, I got things to do, bro. I can't be asleep all day. But the authentic one, because a lot of people acted like they had it and they didn't really have it. And you knew you had it because you were knocked out within 30, 45 minutes. So respect, but I like mimosa. Mimosas for some reason. I'm always gonna ride with some mimosa. That works for me. But I've been feeling Chem 44 lately. I don't know what that's about, but it's been one of the ones that I tend to pick. But honestly, I'm a mood person. I say I like the baked goods. So if there's some type of cake, some type of cookie, lemon be doing its thing. I don't know what that's about because I hate lemon and everything else. But I treat it like drinks and cocktails and shit. I gotta be in the mood.
Thank you. I get high way too much. Let me think about it. I'm gonna go by a quarter. For the quarter right now, Mob Shine. I get it from my guy Uncle Pete in Maine. If you're ever out there, hit up Uncle Pete. Not only a pioneer in growing, but also creating headways in the industry. So yeah, Mob Shine.
Nice. So I'm gonna get into the first question. It's a little deeper. What actions can the industry take to ensure that individuals with criminal records have access to training, education, and job opportunities within the cannabis industry? And how can we ensure that these opportunities are equitable and foster belonging for all?
Well, first of all, I could definitely answer this one. Ensure get people with good track records. You know what I'm saying? People that actually ensure the community, first of all. I don't like being boastful and stuff like that because I want to be a loving person. I think this world needs a lot more love, honestly. But one thing I will say is that even we did our first G's the Gents. We pulled suits out from the community, and the community poured into us. All we did was just pour love into them. They poured a lot back, and Big Hope Project helped us with Corey Sealing as well as you. And now we're at 450 people with access to jobs, access to housing access, and Corey Sealing, record expungement. So it's like we just had a G's the Gents. We just bring people who came from like Freeway Rick Ross, 38 Special artists, people who just come from the diaspora of like being incriminated for bullshit. You get what I'm saying? And growing up in a society where if they didn't have to freaking go sell drugs, if they could have had an actual job, they could have done way better in life, and they would have had to make these decisions. And myself as a formerly incarcerated person and director of a whole nonprofit that's doing well right now for the community, one thing I could say is that like these dispensaries and all these companies, they could lock in with people who actually have a good track record of ensuring the community instead of spending their money on the wheel and turning the wheel of shit that's bullshit. Do something different and change this democracy.
Yeah, so as an attorney, I think of the world through a regulatory lens. So, policies on paper are all well and good, and that's what I think the commission, like I said earlier, likes to sort of focus on. But you can't look at the policies in a vacuum, right? You have to look at what the results are. And I think the biggest failing of the social equity program is up until a recent law change, no money came with that. So, the saying, you teach a man to fish, he feeds his family forever, that sort of thing. Well, you need a fishing rod, you need, a riverbank to fish in, and, all this stuff that costs money. So the law that changed back in November of 2022, aptly titled an act relative to equity in the cannabis space, does include a social equity trust fund where people are going to be able to get money if they're in the social equity program. My number one fear on that is the state is going to look to say, we gave 100 grants out just so they can hit that number. I'd rather they give out 20 grants that have a meaningful amount of dollars so you can actually get open. There's also a couple of quirks in the social equity program where I'm aware of one person now who was admitted into the social equity entrepreneurial track, which means he's being trained to be an owner. He went out, got a warehouse, has been paying rent for the last year, and the commission just came back and said, you're not suitable because of your record. The one that qualified him for social equity. So things like that where, you're being given a foot in the door and then it's slammed in your face should never happen. You shouldn't get that false promise of entry into the industry with that designation. I think on the municipal level, the statute that changed in November gives some tools. Basically, municipalities act in relation to, what their constituents are saying and how much money they can save or make. So the new change in the law says that any municipality that hosts a social equity retailer, they get an additional 1% of tax revenue from the state to do that. And actually, July, there's a deadline for every municipality in the state to create a social equity policy for host community agreements. I'll tell one quick story. I helped get the state's first host community agreement without a location. And our express purpose on that, my partner, my client there wanted to set a precedent for social equity folks. Because what it turns out was, landlords were the true gatekeepers of the industry. If you can't get a landlord to say yes, you can't apply. And it makes no sense to pay rent on a warehouse or a storefront, for 2 years when the state doesn't, inspect it until you've built it out. So they did that with the delivery, and I think they will with the social consumption, where they do a pre-certification that you can get without the host community agreement. And I think that gives you sort of more cachet with landlords and municipalities. You say, look, I got the stamp of approval from the state to get this far. It's like shopping for a house. If you have a pre-approval letter from a mortgage company, you're more attractive than if you're just Johnny off the street. So yeah, dollars matter, and policy that sounds good but doesn't work isn't helping anyone. And I think that stems from, frankly, a little bit of arrogance and a lot of ignorance by the regulators. They think they know better. And my war cry of late is, just hire some stoners. Hire some people who know anything about this product that you're trying to regulate. You're treating it like it's plutonium. it's not. It's a plant that can't kill you. So just, regulations that make it more expensive than it has to be based out of, placating the fears of people who lost question 4 interests me not at all. Why are we catering to people who lost? That's how democracy works. It's legal. If you don't like it, don't buy it. So yeah, I think getting people dollars and coupling that with training is the only way. And then the flavors of licenses that are less expensive. There's been some good ideas, but everyone who's seen, delivery, right? I'm not sure people are making a lot of money on that because you're paying a guy to sit in the front seat to do nothing, to guard against a danger that isn't real, right? No one's robbing these people, so why are we guarding against a danger that's not real? So anyway.
Literally what he said. I'm not even gonna hold up anything because in relation to the real estate aspect of it, in relation to the access and understanding what type of economy there is for people who don't know the depth that they can go as far as financial stability and things like that, and just access and information on those 3 points, what he said.
Definitely, I agree with everybody. If I could piggyback off my buddy Derrel, I would make, I would ask that the CCC mandate all PIP or, donations going to nonprofits actually be from the state. I think there's a lot of corporate carpetbagging of, white people profitizing off our pain. I've been doing this a long time, and every time I try to deal with someone, they're like, oh, we work with LPP. And I'm like, great. What are they doing besides, adding money to their coffers and marketing budget? So if the CCC was really legit, they would mandate that all host agreements, all PIP, any type of donation for a nonprofit would be specifically for that area which the business is like located at.
Preach. All right, so this next question kind of plays into what you guys are saying, but I'll just see if you guys have anything to add. What role do you think policymakers, community leaders, researchers, and other stakeholders play in addressing the social and economic disparities caused by the war on drugs?
Well, I could speak on that specifically in the space of saying it's important to build political power within the communities where obviously people don't have access to that knowledge. You get what I'm saying? So that's the first, and that's the start where the state could start. If they want to have Republican, liberal, conservative, et cetera, that's my personal opinion. I think they could start at least building within the communities that don't really have access first, if they want to really be fair and equal, honestly. But we did work as community members 2 years ago to pass a vacancy tax. We actually passed it as a inside tracking method where we could track down in the city of Boston all the commercial vacancies inside the city of Boston. People who look like me, you're like, what the hell? Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? But we passed that. You get what I'm saying? And we got that policy with an ordinance. We wrote it up with Kinsey Bach and Julie Mejia. And before we even got our nonprofit status and stuff, we made that happen. And it's important to know that you're looking at people in all these other areas to, prescribe the solutions to get for going forward. And it's like, nah, you gotta ask homie around the corner, because I'm homie around the corner. Duh, of course, residential vacancy in Seaport where there's 60 vacant units for people could live at and have a better, society to eat, better foods, et cetera, et cetera. You get what I'm saying? Of course that's better. Of course the homie that's working hard and he wants to have a mom and pop shop in his community. He's working hard. Why can't he have that? Why has it cost $3,000 like I pay every month for the past 2 years? I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not asking nobody. I'm gonna pay it anyway because our unapologetic approach is feed the kids, help the community without no hands. So, but at the end of the day, it would be nice if they had it more affordable for everybody and people could do this, because you never know what this work could be like. You never know how much love could be poured in if people had access. So the policy making and stuff like that, the state needs to come and look inside their neighbors, inside the community a lot more, and give them access to what the says are. And politicians in itself need to stop system acting and show the community.
Yeah, I think in Massachusetts in particular, there were some missed opportunities. If you look at a state like Illinois that legalized after us, they had automatic expungements for 500,000 records. No action, no petition, no going before a judge. If you have that crime on your rap sheet, computers just take it out. Same thing happened in the city of Oakland. They used AI, I guess, to just match up a qualifying conviction that was now no longer illegal, and they wiped it out. The scarlet letter that comes from felony conviction is long lasting, and it impacts your ability to get a job, and ability to get housing. Certain felonies prohibit you from owning a cannabis business. There's a couple sort of regulatory loopholes that I find a little bit hilarious, right? If you're under 10% equity, you aren't known to the commission. They don't know who you are. You could have gotten busted for trafficking or all sorts of things that are terrible that people would say that shouldn't be in. So I get it. You can't own 100% of a store and have that record, but I think the theme is the same. They guard against dangers that aren't real, right? We're worried about who's going to come into this industry. Well, wait a minute. Wasn't the point of this industry to bring people out of the shadows into the light? When you apply for licensure, there's a little box you have to check that says, all the funds I'm using for this enterprise were earned legally. Why are you asking that question? Why are you asking people who have been selling on the corner to basically lie to their faces? I certainly never advise my clients to lie, but I'm very confident that many of my clients have lied because they were trying to get legit. So I think the number one thing on the policy front would be level the playing field in terms of getting rid of convictions that are now legal. Although that does have the sort of perverse sort of disincentive in if you get it expunged and then you try to apply for social equity status, you might not be eligible because you got it eliminated. So there's like a timing question. I got to keep it for a little longer so I can get my foot in the door. So there's just a couple of things that are both hypocritical and clunky. Back to the theme of dollars, right? Policies that put money behind their goals are the ones that work. So if you can make it clear that there are different sort of layers of participation in the industry where it doesn't have to cost, if you're building a big cultivation facility, it's going to be millions of dollars because everyone, has their hand out and they charge the green tax. I think a retail store would be about, 20% cheaper if we didn't have these crazy over-the-top security regulations. Again, these are more strictly regulated than banks or pharmacies. Go to a liquor store, right? The contents of that liquor store could kill everyone in your family 10 times over. You go to a weed store, you can't bring your toddler in because I don't know, what are they going to see? A plant that adults like? I don't know. Grow up is how I would say. Talk to the regulators. Like the war on drugs has failed. It continues to fail. And everyone who likes to talk about public health and public safety or note the uptick in emergency room visits after legalization happens, I said, okay, talk to a scientist, right? Not one of those emergency room visits was medically necessary. Just frickin' wait. Chew on some peppercorns, have some CBD. You're going to be fine. So all that over-the-top security stuff costs more than it needs to. And frankly, what's the worst that can happen? You get robbed? Okay, it's insured. You tell your staff, yeah, give them the stuff and you go on with your day. So yeah, there's just a lot of cognitive dissonance where policymakers, I think, are more worried about the headlines about their policies than about the efficacy of what the frickin' policies do. But that's me.
Yeah. So the reason why he's taking all my lines is because, again, coming from an artist perspective, but also someone who, the company that I deal with, Bridge Connect, that is newly launching, the mother company is a vertically integrated transport, cultivation as well as product manufacturing. And to be newly in the space and just see how many, for example, like my targets, my leads, the people that I'm trying to speak with, cultivation people, retail to a certain extent because cultivation handles their own transport and things like that. You see how many changes in the industry happen in the time that they're waiting for something to be like checked. You know what I mean? Like a truck needs to be outfitted by this, and it has to have this, and certain security regulations, like you're saying, that are just like, it's almost like you just like Googled, like, what is the worst things that could happen? And then they wrote a whole list and they were like, this is the policy. But exactly, it's something to say about that because that in turn is what deters people who are in, my space to try to get involved in this industry. It's like, it's already, in business, there's already people who are they have their challenges from their history that make them feel like they're not worthy of being in the space or make them feel like they're not qualified or educated to be in the space. And, I tell people even now, it's like, here I am, a hip hop artist and fell into a sales position because what I'm doing is the same thing. And I tell people that. I'm like, the cannabis industry, I was just at the Cannabis Empowerment Series, we were just talking about this, like, it's the same thing. The music industry and the cannabis industry is the same thing when you're actually like doing well, because there's this celebrity aspect of that plug that you're trying to like get next to, and you're like, oh snap, Happy Valley's here, bro. Like, let me go, you know what I mean? And then obviously it's the same thing in the industry. But as I was just joking with some of the Canna Queens at the event the other day, we were saying like, but if you're really successful in this space, you know that everybody just want to go home. Everybody just want to be home, bro. Like, after all these, you know what I mean? Like, we do them, but the reality is, if you're really in the space and you're really boots to the ground, you know how hard it is and how many hurdles that you really jump through. When do you really have time to enjoy what's actually happening? So something as simple as that everybody in this room understands. So think about the person who's like, I love weed. I want to own a business one day. I never knew I could have a business for it. I've been growing since I was like 7. I've done some time. Why the hell would that person who already doesn't think that they're going to get the job at like Home Depot or something like that think that they can go and like qualify for some type of social equity situation because they're qualified as fuck beyond what we even think? So same with me. Like, I laugh at my office sometimes because I'm like, they know me. I'm like, I'm an artist. Like, bro, I'm in there. Like, if it doesn't make sense, there's no like favoritism on what the business conversation is happening. That shit doesn't make sense, whether it's the person I'm representing or the person that, you know, I'm working with. And all of that ties into, that's the nature of business of the people that have been affected by being hustlers, being innovative in what they wanted to do. Transport companies. Who didn't love the plug that was going to deliver it for you, dog? Like, everybody loved that person, and we would never think that that person who was smart enough to know to do those things would be like the innovator of that market. And it's simply because they don't know. Back to the access and information, they just didn't know. Like, they had no idea that you could do that. Like, as I'm learning everything in this space, it's just like, when would they ever get the time to know what options they have when security measures, like, you need to have this type of camera for this in case this happens, and it's like all these zones, it's all real estate. It's really coming down to real estate. It's really coming down to who you're affiliated with and what business sector. Like, it's all, again, the celebrityism of it, and not really just basic business. It's just straight business. So it is a very frustrating thing, and all that to say, like, I applaud the people in this space and the fact that things like this can happen, because, again, the restrictions that come from just lack of information and lack of resource, and it all comes from policy. It all comes from what we're allowed to do. Just like you have a show, you book a show, you know the script, you know the rules, you know what to play inside. But you can't fight back against it because it's just like age-old new policy. So people like you guys, things like this is how, like, you know, that information is spread. So it's as I said, as an artist, and some of these policies and laws, it definitely starts from that. But it's the information more than anything that is crucial to it. So yeah,
Definitely. Everyone did a good job. I'm not even gonna try. We should go to the next question.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I really believe what you guys are saying about access to education and access to capital is very important. And I believe that the state and the city should do better jobs of creating ownership, because that's one of the biggest reasons people commit crimes, where they're just trying to feed their family, make some money, because they don't have access to capital. They can't get a job. Or if they're in Massachusetts, some of the MSOs are paying $15 an hour. How are you, $1 million company, paying $15 an hour and expect somebody to have a livable life and be able to feed your family? So I think owners, right? You're on the street. You're gonna have to do what you have to do to survive. So I'm just thinking about my social work background. I'm a licensed social worker, and social determinants of health are like the biggest reasons why people commit crime. So housing, income, and lack of family structure or education causes those things. So
I just want to jump real quick on that, because what you said about social work. So like, I'm a life insurance agent as well, right? So with that information, and you understand like healthcare and health programs. So same idea, like when you get your health insurance, like you get this big ass packet. And nobody ever reads that shit, but it's telling you like all the options of all the things that you can do and finesse this. And now that I understand what it is, it's like there are budgets like Medicaid, Medicare. You guys get that shit for basically, right? But there are programs, huge budgets that are simply like legally you have to educate the person. Like if that know your budget page is missing from the policy, that whole shit's exempt, they could sue the whole fucking thing. Just the fact that they have to give you options of information and educate you on how you can move within your options. So it's kind of the same thing. Like how is it that something that has been made off of the backs of people like that aren't getting first dibs, first access to all the ways that they can benefit from it? Because not only, we don't have to get into the emotion part of they're owed it. It's more so that they're qualified for it. They're experienced in it. Why wouldn't, it's something to say about why that's not happening. I guess that's what I'm saying. So we don't have to talk about what it is, but there's something to say about why something as simple as that
Corruption
wouldn't be available to the people who would make the business as profitable as it could be.
Definitely. Thank you for that. I'm going to just go to the first question, which will go to you, Harry. What inspired the Guiding Light initiative?
One moment. Yeah, my bad. Literally, you got to be the change you seek. Being from areas disproportionately impacted, my brother being a social worker, me being previously incarcerated, knowing people like Slim doing the work with no budget, we were like, we're tired of it. I take inspiration from the Black Panthers. They literally started by themselves and became a national organization that did a lot of good. I think if everyone in the community had that type of energy, we wouldn't even need help from the government because we would do everything internally. But until then, I just want to create programs that can be scaled up on a federal level. For instance, Big Hope Project has only been established a year and 2 quarters now. We've with the help of Blake and various other lawyers, expunged or sealed over 60 records. We got 18 people into the social equity program. We have over 600 hours of outreach and education in areas disproportionately impacted. Things like that no one else is doing, but like we could do it without a budget. That just gives me hope that if we keep creating these things and then creating real life templates, like eventually people will catch on. Like, oh, that's not only cool, but it makes sense not only for my business or it just makes sense for my community that people will get behind this and scale up. So that's the reason, and thank you all for being here, because by being here, you're actually a part of the solution as opposed to just complaining and taking it.
Definitely amazing. And just to add to that, Big Hope Project, our logo is a lighthouse, and one of the reasons why we did that is because we feel like equity is like how a lot of people are like lost at sea. You see the lighthouse and you're trying to find the light, get the guiding lights. You're trying to get to shore, just trying to get some life and preservation, but it's just so hard. So if you can't swim, how are you going to make it out there? So we're trying to teach people how to swim, empower themselves, and just make it through those lights. So the next question is going to be for Slim. What specific services and resources does your organization provide that you think are crucial for supporting historically marginalized populations?
Shit.
I know it's like where to start, but give them a breakdown.
It's a good shit. I was saying, like, in a good way. You know what I mean? Me and my brother over here were talking about, like, we're from Mattapan, right? You know what I'm saying? So I said to myself a couple years ago, and I'm going to give y'all some context of who I am. I never said this ever, and nobody knows this either, so I'm going to say this on wax. But I'm formerly incarcerated myself. Nobody knows. I'm doing all this. I just got out of jail 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? I just beat my case, all this other stuff. You know, I'm formerly incarcerated myself, and not for the right things at all. So I hate it. It's disgusting to say. The things I'm doing today, I want that to be more who I am. You get what I'm saying? That's not me, so I never say that. But the reason why I said that is because I said prescribing my solutions as I look around in this democracy, and I'm saying, fuck this. You know what I'm saying? We got a grant. COVID hit, everybody else's business is shutting down. I said, nah, I'm taking advantage. Unapologetic approach. I fucked around and got a grant. And then I turned that $30,000 grant and got my LC, etc. Bought a store in Boston. Everybody was like, why would you get a storefront in Boston? What? $3,000? We're going to sell clothes? Oh, my God, this is egregious. So I was like, you know what? When I get a storefront, though, they ain't know to play. I said, this is social enterprise. This is for the kids. This is for the everyday explorer, no matter what you look like. I don't give a fuck. I'm about love. Fuck the historical shit. Fuck everything. You get what I'm saying? On all bases. You get what I'm saying? I want to start with love first. You get what I'm saying? That's what I want to live on. You get what I mean? And when I got the store, every kid in that store looked like all of us in here, everybody in here. And I had to start programs like Feed the Hood, where we have 50,000 families, individuals. I know this shit sound crazy when I say all these numbers and shit. I say these numbers to show you, like, I'm doing this right now. We had no budget. We had no 501c3. We had none of that. But you know what we had? The community. We got that storefront. That 30,000 went out fast. But we locked in with brothers right here, sisters like right here, brothers like right here. Came through the store. Corey sell record expunged in this little ass box that store, hot as hell. I'm talking about we got free suits, we got haircuts in there, food, everything. We got mad information, resume writing created by us. We in the living room. I'm smoking a blunt, talking about this cannabis shit. I'm like, this dispensary shit. They don't want to eliminate suffering. I was like, these people want to. It's easy. You get what I'm saying? All these people got this money in the dispensary world. But long story short, my programs is G's the Gents. Corey Sale, record expungement, housing, access, everything. You can look on Voices Liberation. That's our organization. Look on voicesliberation.org or look on our IG. Promise you can see all of our work there. We got Feed the Hood, shit, Black Women Shifters. This is shit, fucking vacancy tax. We're building anti-gentrification task force. We got so many layers, and we talk about Voices Liberation. So we try to make sure that we really stand on that when we say that shit out loud. Because at the end of the day, it's about all of us. It's not, I want to create a new ideology of love. I don't want to adapt none of these ideologies because it's fucked up. You get what I'm saying? And if everybody want to eliminate suffering, fucking do the same shit I'm on. I ain't asking for your money. Obviously, I own my shit. I don't want nobody's shit. If you want to build me, you want to build and eliminate suffering, I'll fuck with you. But other than that, I ain't asking for shit. I know what world I live in. You get what I'm saying? But one thing I will say is do it in your space. Do it in where you live at. Eliminate suffering. Do the same shit I'm doing. Create your own. And all I got to do is make sure that shit's built out love. If it's compromised by any power, pussy, positions, any of that, you're done. And I'm being, like, real. So.
Amen.
Stand
on
How
it.
many people do you feed a month, do you think?
So we go to each housing projects in Boston, no matter where you live at, whatever. So I don't know. A couple thousand families and 1,000 to 2,000 people every single month. And it's clothes, essentials, free game and love and hugs, harm reduction. It's not just we don't put it on the internet because we don't take pictures of people down on the ground. What if I seen your cousin, your uncle down there on Mass Ave, Nubian Square? That's fucked up. We ain't none of these system acting people. We've been doing it 2 years straight with no fucking funding either. Not a damn penny, but the community gave us free clothes, and that's what I'm saying. So I really want people to be knowledgeable about that, the power what the fuck you can do.
I'm a round of applause for that. So the next question is going to be for you, Blake. How can the industry balance the need for profitability with a commitment to social responsibility and supporting historically marginalized communities disproportionately harmed by the criminal justice system?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to dollars again. Profitability in cannabis is, heavily impacted by the way the federal government treats cannabis come tax time. Section 280E of the Internal Revenue Code, if you haven't heard of it, you probably haven't been in cannabis that long, but basically what it is it says you're naughty for making money from weed, and therefore you get to take basically none of the deductions that regular businesses get to take. So, a really profitable retail store is like 15 to 18% profit margin. People focus on the top line, revenue numbers. 50% of that is the wholesale cost of acquiring it, unless you're vertically integrated. People call Massachusetts Taxachusetts, right? We're not as taxed highly on cannabis as a state like Washington that taxes it at 39%, like unbelievable greed from the government. And New York just undercut us, right? They're at 14%. So I think to make it, to promote equity is to lower the barriers of entry, that come from landlords that gouge people. So like I said earlier, decouple your starting point contract from an address, and that saves you probably a year's worth of rent. That adds up. I would also just say that the companies, the big companies that, cycle through their employees at $15 an hour, that's a poor investment because you can't get someone at $15 an hour to invest themselves heavily into your business. Why would they? They're responsible for following the rules, but it's the company paying the salaries that has the license to lose. So treat them like you'd want to be treated. Like, it's not rocket science. You pay them as much as you can so you can still make a comfortable living and you can satisfy your investors, but it's not, you shouldn't have a top-down model where only the people at the top make money. I'm not saying everything has to be a worker-owned co-op, but that's a cool model. It's just the problem is the really rich people in the world got really rich by hoarding that money, right? They want to keep it. So every time you have a social equity or an economic empowerment person doing a pitch to an investor, they've got to grapple with the fact that they're putting all of their eggs in this one basket. So yeah, I started a company where we have 4 majority social equity owners, and that was a risk hedge to get an investor to say, 4 people are less likely to reach consensus on a bad business course of action than 1 person who's in the driver's seat who by law has to own 51% of the company. I had probably 40 meetings with investors who were like, well, I don't know, this one person, how am I supposed to do that? So making it cost less to run a business, having some unique corporate structures where it's not just some anonymous owner who makes all the money and it's like, yeah, cut every corner, $15 an hour, treat them like shit, we'll just replace them. That's not sustainable. It's not the point. And frankly, if you don't have a love or at least a respect for the plant, just get out of the industry. Like the Wall Street types who are just like, oh, it's the next big thing, we're gonna make money. Like, go away. I don't want you near this. Not saying you have to get high every day, but respect the plant. And I think that would have some positive impacts in terms of getting people into the industry if you could sort of incentivize it through policy to make it cost less, and maybe even have some policies like New York State did where every store has to have a labor peace agreement. So you can't be anti-union because then you have the same thing. You're just having people at the top getting all the benefits. So.
Right, yep. I was just going to say we have less than 5 more minutes, so we're going to make the next couple of questions quick answers. The next one's for you, Dutch. As a talented artist who transitioned from an area of disproportionate impact, what made you want to become a leader in the cannabis industry?
Again, the theme of the day is access, for sure. Being able to empower people with their options to make money, to dive into business, and to actually put their efforts towards doing something that can help the community. I was just speaking with Drew from Flower Express. She's opening a retail space in Mattapan. Just knowing that, for example, me diving into transport, that I can help someone like a Drew who's establishing a place that she's slated to be the first Latina business cannabis owner, retail owner, if I'm not mistaken, in a town that I grew up in a town that I'm from, where so many Haitian people are, and her passion for holistic remedies and things like that, and topicals and all of the stuff that my culture grew up on. You know what I mean? The plug, you know what I mean? In music, you gotta be the plug. I always say, why be a plug when you could be an outlet, right? Everybody's a plug until you're the person who's charging the whole shit up, right? And that's kind of what I feel like all my little talents have led me into. Like I was saying, I feel like I'm at my next Pokemon level. Pretty much, all my little talents just hit me to the next spot, because there are so many business, job, community opportunities that come from cannabis, that it's not just about music. Because understand, as an artist, my contacts are very random. If I'm doing speaking engagements for YWCA, then now I'm speaking with women who are, Girls Rock Boston. I've been doing things like that for years. So if I have access to a company that'll sponsor them or help them to do some type of event, that's just simple as, oh, Caroline, you want to do what? Oh, all right, cool. Well, I know Happy Valley and shit, and they're doing stuff. I can hook y'all up with, or I can, Sensei Magazine's doing something. And they got a bus, so if you want to do something it's the same type of idea. So for me, it was kind of hand in hand already. I performed at Boston Cannabis Week. I want to say last year. I was on that bill with Common. You know what I mean? So I've already been quote unquote used by the cannabis industry to a certain extent as an artist, but being a business forward person, it means a lot to me for artists who aren't as experienced in the business space to not get taken advantage of the same way that certain businesses, companies, neighborhoods are getting taken advantage of by big cannabis companies. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't I want the sisters that have their cannabis brand out in fucking Holyoke to win because I'm seeing them I'm seeing them in Lower Mills and shit. We getting ice cream. Like, those are the people that should be benefiting from the community instead of like these big companies that are just coming and like shit, Truly just left. Like, I didn't even fucking know that. Like, you know what I mean? But stuff like that, it's like, that's like, you know what I mean? You just dropped a new album. You're like Jay-Z and it's like Biggie or some shit and he's like somebody left and now you're like the new, you know what I mean? That's sexy shit. Like that's business, that's music shit. And we should absolutely be the first ones to be in that space because again, it's not just about being first or being owed anything. It's about experience. We're not in a position anymore in cannabis to be just putting our homies on because we knew somebody or you qualified for something but you were using it for something else. Like we're now actually establishing an economy. So we gotta do our checks and balances.
Amen. So I'm gonna make this the last question. It could be very, very short, not even just a one-liner basically. What makes you guys hopeful for equity in the cannabis industry, or just what makes you hopeful about the cannabis industry? Future of it.
People here today on the panel give me hope. I feel like people actually disproportionately impacted coming into the power. We could change the world. We already did that, but if we all work together, we could do a lot more tomorrow.
Amen. Any one-liners if you guys have it? Final thoughts. One-liner. Drop the mic.
Define yourself for yourself and support everybody right here. Shout out to Blake and them because, big hope.
Voice of liberation.
So what gives me hope is kind of piggybacking on what Dutch was saying, right? Whatever your background was before cannabis, you have portable skills. The other point I want to make is it's literally impossible for one human being to know how to do everything that's required to run a cannabis business by themselves. It is not possible. So I'm really good at the regulations, right? People pay me to tell them what the rules say. Do I know how to grow? No, I do not. I have killed cacti, right? So find a team that does things that you don't, that you like and trust. And, not that I love this guy, but Elon Musk had a great quote about someone asked him, what advice would you give, what words of encouragement would you give to an entrepreneur just starting out? And he said, if you need words of encouragement, don't be an entrepreneur. So no one's there going to hold your hand. In the first year of my law firm, I had 30-second panic attacks every 2 weeks thinking, how can I do this all? And the answer is, well, I don't know if I can, but if I make a mistake, I'll own it and I'll do my best to fix it. And if someone wants to be mad at me for making a mistake and doing my best to fix it, fuck them. Like I can't control that. So, keep grinding. It is a grind. You'll constantly feel like you're swimming upstream in cannabis. And I like to tell towns in particular, just let me follow your rules. That's all I want to do. And they try to make stuff up. I'm like, it's in writing, right? And I can read, and it's right there. So in any event, just it takes resilience, and it takes a network. So come to events like this, meet as many people as you can, and find people who are good at things that you aren't or things that you don't want to do, because every standard business challenge in cannabis exists. And then there's this whole heaping pile of regulatory stuff where I become relevant. So it's like, it's a lot, but yeah, I know it was more than one line.
Thank you. I'm gonna just say I'm hopeful for social consumption, and I'm really ready for that to happen. I want to be able to smoke in a coffee shop or a restaurant with all of you guys and enjoy the flowers. So thank you for having us. This is the Guiding Light Initiative. Thank you to the Flower Expo and everybody. We're Big Hope Project, Voice of Liberation, Blake Mensing. Question? Oh, any questions real quick? Do we have time? No. Okay, yeah, no, just follow us on. You have one question somewhere?
Who wants to get bathed?
All of us. Let's go do it, man. Follow us on the Big Hope Project. Thank you.